Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the course on anti doping awareness for sport. Today, we are going to start week 4, and in week 4, lecture 1, we will be discussing the doping control process. Now, the doping control process is a big process, is a large process, and it's quite complicated and it's filled with a lot of legalese and technicalities. So, we will be covering this topic under two parts. So, lecture 1 will cover half of the doping control process. I will be covering lecture 1 as per the following outline: definition of the process, intent of drug testing, types of drug testing, steps of drug testing, the rights of athletes, and we will conclude with a take home message. Definition. Now, this process, including test distribution planning, sample collection and handling, laboratory analysis, therapeutic use exemptions, result management, hearing, and appeals. This entire process is called the doping control process. Right from where to do the test, how to do the test, whom to be tested, how many tests to be done, how many samples to be collected, what type of samples to be collected. All this comes under test distribution planning. Once that is done, the collection of the samples and the proper handling of the samples at the site of collection and also from the site of collection to the WADA accredited laboratory. Then the role of the laboratory starts in doing a proper laboratory analysis. Once that is done, we have to check if there are any therapeutic use exemptions in place. Once that is checked, then we get into the result management phase. And if the result management phase is done satisfactorily, there may or may not be hearings and further appeals. As it is, every athlete has got the right to be heard and to appeal. And as we shall see in further lectures, there are several levels of appeals. So, what is the intent of this drug testing? Number one intent is to eliminate any competitive advantage that might result from ergonomic aids. It means anything which improves performance is called an ergogenic aid. And there are some which are legal, there are some which are not legal, right? So we are talking, as since it is drug testing, it is an illegal ergogenic aid. We are trying to protect other athletes from injury by drug abusing athletes in combat sports, in competitive weightlifting, sports such as powerlifting, throws. All these are highly injury prone sports, and if you have drug abusing athletes competing with non drug abusing athletes, there is a high risk of injury to the non drug abusing athlete. We are trying to provide fair competition. We are also trying to provide correct and dependable analytical results based upon scientific data. There are different types of drug testing depending upon whether it is being done during the competition or whether it is not done out of competition, right? If the drug sample testing is done during a competition or after the athlete has reached the games village, it is called in competition testing. Any tests which are done not during the competition periods are called out of competition testing. It is Very simply put, an athlete can be tested anytime, any place, and only the nomenclature of the test will be different. If he is tested during training or during a vacation, it's out of competition testing. If he is tested during a competition, it becomes in competition testing. When we are talking about out of competition testing, the athlete's whereabouts become very, very important. Now, as we shall see further, whereabouts is supposed to be filed by the athlete if they are part of the registered testing pool of any national anti-doping agency, international federation, or the World Anti-Doping Agency. If they are part of this registered testing pool, they are supposed to file their whereabouts every time their whereabouts location changes. Now, there are certain steps of drug testing, and each step follows the other in a logical and correct legal manner. It starts with athlete selection. How or who is selected for giving the dope sample. Then it proceeds to notification. After notification, the athlete is supposed to report to the doping control station. At the doping control station, there is something called selection of the sample collection vessel. Then there is provision of the sample, selecting the sample collection kit, dividing and sealing the sample, testing the suitability of the urine sample, completing the doping control form, and the laboratory process. Let's start with athlete selection. Very simply put, athlete can be selected for doping control anytime, anywhere, even at home. We just discussed there are two types of tests: in competition, out of competition. That means the athlete can be tested at any time and at any place. The selection of the athlete can occur in three ways. If the athlete is a medal winner during in competition testing, the athlete, if he or she is a medal winner, they will definitely be tested. There may be random tests. If generally what happens is the venue doping control manager, the international federation representative, and maybe the games venue manager may be present, and they may decide on which all athletes to be randomly tested. If there is a complaint filed against an athlete, or there is a suspicion of doping against an athlete, he or she may be selected for target testing. Notification. Once the athlete is selected for doping control, he or she has to be notified that they have been selected for providing a dope control sample. Now, this notification is done by the doping control officer or the chaperone. We will discuss their roles in detail in further lectures. The DCO or the chaperone introduces himself or herself, notifies the athlete, and asks the athlete to sign the notification form. I will be showing you how the notification form is supposed to be filled, and we'll talk about that in a subsequent lecture. Athletes can be advised of their rights and responsibilities if they are not aware of them. The DCO or the chaperone will ask them if they are aware. If they are not aware, then they will be advised of their rights and responsibilities. Reporting to the doping control station. Athletes are reporting to the doping control station. Athletes are required to report to the DCS as soon as possible after notification. Generally, a time of 15 minutes is given for out of competition testing, but 60 minutes are given for in competition testing. We will discuss why this 60 minutes is important during in competition testing. Failure to report to the doping control station may result in an anti-doping rule violation. When the athlete enters the doping control station, his or her identity is checked by the doping control staff, and then he or she is told to wait in the waiting area. There is a cooler provided with drinks, isotonic drinks, water, fruit juices, etc., so that the athlete can hydrate themselves before the sample is given. The athlete can also bring their own drinks from their hotel room or from their home. Only condition is whatever is provided in the cooler should be a sealed bottle, and the athlete is supposed to verify the seal before he or she picks up a bottle and drinks it. If any contaminant is found in the bottle provided by the doping control station, subsequently, the onus of responsibility will not lie on the doping control staff, it will lie upon the athlete, because the athlete is responsible for whatever enters his or her body. So once the athlete says that, okay, I am ready to provide a sample, that means my bladder is full, then the athlete is told to get ready for sample provision. When the athlete is ready to urinate, he or she selects a sealed, clean and sterile container wrapped in a plastic bag. This container, the athlete is given a choice out of at least 3, and he or she will select one out of that. The athlete is supposed to make sure that the wrapping on the container is sealed and intact. This is the WADA approved urine collection vessel. There may be different types, but generally it's a vessel with markings on it denoting milliliters, and it comes in a sealed plastic pouch. Once the athlete is ready to provide the urine sample and has selected a sample collection vessel, the athlete will move with the chaperone of the same gender to the washroom. The athlete is asked to wash the hands with soap and water. The athlete removes the wrapper on the sample collection vessel. All this is done in the presence of the chaperone, and the chaperone will be of the same gender as the athlete. Athlete removes the clothing to expose the body from nipple to knee, and the chaperone will observe the passage of urine into the container under direct vision or indirect vision through a mirror. The chaperone may also observe the exposed genitalia to look for any tubes or polythene bags or any such contraptions which the athlete may have fitted to cheat at the doping control process. And the chaperone is allowed to observe but not touch any part of the athlete's body. Once the sample is provided, generally a minimum of 90 ml is required. However, in case EPO testing is to be done, 120 ml is requested to be provided. Once the sample has been collected in the sample collection vessel, the lid is applied and the athlete is the only one who handles the sample unless requested or in case of Paralympic athletes. If the athlete is unable to handle the sample, or the athlete is a minor or suffers from any disability, only then if there is a request from the athlete or the athlete guardian or the athlete representative, will the sample be handled by any of the doping control station staff. Otherwise, nobody will touch the sample other than the athlete himself or herself. There are certain rights of the athletes, and they are very important and they are laid down in writing. These rights should be followed in true letter and spirit. It is the right of the athlete to know the anti doping program. Consequently, if there is a right, a duty follows. It is a duty of the athlete to attend anti doping training programs and be aware about the anti doping program. The athlete is supposed to know the consequence of failure to comply. Failure to comply, the consequence is very simple. An ADRV will be reported by the doping control station staff, and then the case will proceed from there itself. The athlete has a right to accomplish their assignments like cooling down, medal ceremony, further participation, and media obligations after notification. That is why the 60-minute time is given for athletes to reach the doping control station during in competition testing. The athlete has a right to have their representative present during the testing in the doping control station. The athlete has a right to get a copy of the dope testing form. The athlete has a right to be informed about the result of the test. The athlete has a right to be heard and to be given a fair hearing. Now, hearing panels are assembled by the national anti-doping organizations, and they are generally comprised of 3 members: one who is an athlete, the other person is a sports medicine doctor, and a third person may be a legal person or an athlete advocate. Now, once the National Anti-Doping Organization presents the case in front of the panel, the athlete is given a chance to present their case. The athlete can have a lawyer present during the hearing. But only thing to be noted is hearing is a public event, and after an hearing, the results of the dope test will no longer remain confidential. If the athlete is not satisfied with the result declared at the hearing, he or she has a right to appeal the findings, and the appeal can be done at several levels. Take home message. Anti-doping process is a medico-legal process and follows strictly laid down. Anti-doping process is a medico-legal process and follows strictly laid down guidelines. It is the duty of the athlete to be aware of the anti-doping program and the WADA regulations. More importantly, it is the duty of the athlete support personnel to be aware of the anti-doping program and the WADA regulations. The athlete support personnel are supposed to educate yourself first and then your athlete about the consequences of failure to comply with the anti-doping program. All instructions given by the duly appointed DCO and the chaperone during the doping control process is supposed to be followed in true letter and spirit. You cannot disobey any instructions given by the DCO or the chaperone. It is your duty to be aware of the process and to be aware of specific regulations which may be governing your particular sport. As we always say no to doping. So these are my references, and it is recommended that you go through these references in detail so that you are much more aware of the subject and the topics being taught. I seem to have reached the end of my lecture, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, there will be an assignment which will have to be submitted after the period which has been given to you, and I strongly urge you to go through some of the references and do some more reading of your own. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you and Jai Hind.